in the votes?
Yeah, you know, it's a nice contrast to the president, who obviously is a big spender and likes big government, but more importantly for Mitt Romney, this is going to appeal to some of the Ron Paul supporters who might be turned off these days by Ron Paul, and especially some of the tactics of some of the other Ron Paul supporters. So this is a very common sense way to start nibbling around the edges.
Even with Big Bird, though, that's something everybody watches.
Well,
he said we don't
want to kill off Big Bird. I think that Mitt Romney probably explained it very well. He says we don't want to kill off Big Bird, so he doesn't sound like an extremist, but he's talking in very realistic terms about what we have to start thinking about doing. So again, he doesn't sound crazy like Ron Paul, but he's talking about let's start looking at shrinking the government a little bit, and I think that's going to appeal to some of those people who have been looking at Ron Paul, but now are looking at him
that's
a little
the barometer
askance.
right now, right, Cheri?
It seems to be,
yep.
Yes.
Fred, let's move to you. You know, Newt Gingrich told my colleague Chuck Todd a little bit earlier that he could finish top 3 or 4 in Iowa and still be in good shape. What do you think about that?
I think that's true, depending on what the gap is. The problem with Gingrich will be going into New Hampshire, and he's got a long campaign to maintain, and he's got to keep from further plummeting in the polls. You know, he's had one of the great falls of all time from his high to his low. So he's got, apart from Iowa, he's got to look down the road a little bit and see if he's going to be able to stop that decline in the polling, Richard.
And manage expectations along the way. Cheri, I saw this last night. I thought it was really interesting. Erin McPike of Real Clear Politics, you might have heard this as well. She had this to say to my colleague Chris Matthews on Hardball last night. Listen to this.
But here's the other thing. Neither Ron Paul nor Rick Santorum really truly want to be president. I've talked to both of these guys, and they both have said, Rick Santorum told me a year and a half ago he was only going to run because he wanted to move the field to the right. And I asked Ron Paul a couple weeks ago if he actually wanted to be president, and he kind of just said, sure. These guys are both message candidates.
So if that's correct, that would be news, Cheri. What do you think? Is this possible?
You know, it's amazing that they would admit that, but, you know, God bless them for their honesty. It could be just a function of Rick Santorum understanding that he's not going to win the nomination, but knowing that he does have support out there, that a lot of people agree with him. Even if they agree with him on every single issue, they know that he doesn't have, you know, the campaign in place to win, but they might be supporting him early on just for that reason. The Ron Paul supporters, as I mentioned a minute ago, they are very different. But, you know, I think it's music to the ears of many Republicans if Ron Paul is saying that he's not really running, because that means he can go in and have an effect on some key issues that are more mainstream, but stop being a threat, you know, to threatening to run as a third-party candidate, because that hands the presidency to President Obama, a second term. So, you know, you can read that as good news for Republicans
Fred,
as well.
A flip side here, though, is with all that support for Ron Paul, that he would go for the third-party run, taking that need to, again, move the message.
Yes, I agree with Ron Paul says he doesn't want to be president. Ron Paul has no expectation of being president, which is why he can say what he does. When you don't have a prayer, you can say whatever comes to your mind, and you're not really going to lose anything. I think Ron Paul has gotten hooked on the cult that's behind him and on the attention that he's getting now, which is more than he's ever gotten. I don't see Ron Paul dropping out of this. I see him continuing as an independent in some way or the other. What does he care what the Republicans think of him? But he's not going to be vice president. He's not going to be in the cabinet. This is Ron Paul's last stand. This is great. This is the show for him. This is the end of the road. So why not stretch it out as far as he can? He's clearly having a wonderful time.
There's also 2016, though, Fred.
Yeah, he's
Cheri,
getting up there.
Yeah, thank you both very much. Have a very good